Cronus, the primordial deities were the earliest generation of gods and goddesses. One of these deities was known as Gaia, who was Mother Earth, and another one was known as Uranus, who was Father Sky. They produced the second generation of gods called the 12 Titans. The youngest among these titans was Cronus, often shown with a sickle and considered the god of the harvest. But Gaia and Uranus also had more children, the 300-handed Hecatoncheires and the one-eyed Cyclopes. Uranus, however, hated them and imprisoned them in Tartarus, a deep abyss that was used as a prison of pain and suffering for the wicked. This angered Gaia, their mother, who attempted to form an alliance with her 12 children to overthrow Uranus. She created a powerful stone sickle and gathered all of the Titans, but no one wanted to do it except for Cronus. Cronus ambushed his own father and castrated him. He then threw his severed parts and the sickle into the ocean, which later became Corfu, the Greek island famous for its sickle-like shape. After Uranus was dethroned, Cronus and his older sister Rhea ruled the world as king and queen. The era in which Cronus ruled was called the Golden Age, as people at the time had no need for laws, rules, or labor. Gaia and Uranus, however, had foretold that Cronus would be overthrown by one of his sons, just as he did to Uranus. This made him fearful and paranoid, and although he had them with Rhea, he swallowed all 5 of his children immediately after they were born. But one child survived. Rhea secretly gave birth to a 6th child named Zeus, and she wanted revenge for Cronus' acts against his father and his children. Rhea gave Cronus a stone wrapped in swaddling clothes, which he quickly swallowed, believing it was his son. Zeus, the god of the sky and thunder, also known as the king of the gods, was raised in secret. When he grew older, he used a potion given to him by Gaia to force Cronus to disgorge the contents of his stomach in reverse order. First the stone, then his 2 brothers and 3 sisters, Poseidon, Hades, Hera, Hestia, and Demeter. After freeing his siblings, Zeus released the 100-handed Hecatoncheires and the Cyclopes, who forged his thunderbolts, Poseidon's trident, and Hades' helm of darkness. A massive war known as the Titanomachy broke out between Zeus, his siblings, the Hecatoncheires, and the Cyclopes against Cronus and the other 12 Titans. Zeus and his allies fought from Mount Olympus, while the Titans fought from Mount Othrys. For this reason, Zeus and his siblings became known as the Olympians. The Olympians emerged victorious, and many of the Titans were imprisoned in Tartarus. Zeus married his sister Hera, with whom he is usually said to have fathered Ares and Hephaestus. Zeus, however, was infamous for his many affairs with other goddesses, from which Athena, Hermes, Dionysus, Apollo, and Artemis were born. Hera. Hera is the goddess of marriage, women, and family. As both the wife and sister of Zeus, she is the queen of the gods. She was known as one of the most jealous and vengeful deities, often punishing the women who had affairs with her husband, as well as the children born from those unions. When Hera discovered that Leto, one of Zeus's lovers, was pregnant with Apollo and Artemis, she attempted to prevent their birth. She persuaded nature spirits to stop Leto from giving birth, but Poseidon, the brother of both Hera and Zeus, took pity on Leto and guided her to the floating island of Delos, where she was finally able to give birth. Hera also directed her anger toward Heracles, another illegitimate child of Zeus. She sent serpents to kill him in his cradle, but the newborn strangled them with his bare hands. Later, she drove him into madness, causing him to kill his wife and children, an event that ultimately led him to undertake his famous 12 labors. Poseidon. Poseidon is the god of the sea and rules over storms, earthquakes, and horses. He was a fearsome and vengeful god, widely honored even in cities where he was not the patron deity. When Zeus's son Minos asked for Poseidon's help to prove his claim to the throne of Crete, Poseidon sent him a magnificent white bull on the condition that it would later be sacrificed in his honor. The people were so impressed by the bull and the divine sign that Minos was declared king of Crete. However, wishing to keep the beautiful animal for himself, Minos instead sacrificed an ordinary bull to Poseidon, rather than the one that had been promised. Enraged by this betrayal, Poseidon cursed Minos' wife, causing her to fall in love with the bull. Their union resulted in the Minotaur, a half-bull, half-human creature that fed on human flesh. Athena. Athena is the goddess of wisdom, warfare, and craftsmanship. She was born directly from Zeus's forehead, without a mother. Zeus's wife became furious that he had produced a child on his own, so she later conceived and gave birth to Hephaestus by herself. Athena then entered a contest with Poseidon for the patronage of the city. Each god had to present a gift to the people of Athens, and Cecrops, the king of Athens, would decide which gift was superior. Poseidon struck the ground with his trident, causing a saltwater spring to emerge, granting the Athenians access to water and trade. Athena, on the other hand, offered the first cultivated olive tree, which provided wood, oil, and food. Athena was declared the winner and became the patron deity of Athens. Enraged by his loss, Poseidon sent one of his sons, Halorotheus, to destroy the tree. However, as he swung his axe, he missed his target and struck himself, killing him. Athena also turned Medusa into a terrifying monster with snakes for hair, whose gaze could turn any mortal to stone, after discovering that Poseidon had violated Medusa inside Athena's temple, defiling it.
Hephaestus.
Hephaestus is the god of artisans, blacksmiths, carpenters, fire, sculpture, and volcanoes. Because of his lameness, he was thrown off Mount Olympus by his mother Hera, and he fell into the sea. He crafted the weapons of the gods on Olympus, as well as those of many heroes such as Achilles and Hercules. Hephaestus also created Pandora and her famous box, which she later opened, releasing misfortune and curses upon mankind. Despite being exiled, he was one of the Olympians who eventually returned to Olympus. He took revenge on Hera for casting him out by creating a magical golden throne that trapped her the moment she sat on it, preventing her from standing again. The other gods pleaded with Hephaestus to return and free her, but he refused, declaring, "I have no mother." He agreed to release Hera only on the condition that he be married to Aphrodite, the goddess of love and passion, and his demand was ultimately granted.
Aphrodite.
Aphrodite is the goddess of love, desire, beauty, pleasure, and passion. She was born from the severed genitals of Uranus after they fell into the sea when Cronus cut them off. Aphrodite generously rewarded those who honored her, but she also harshly punished anyone who showed her disrespect. Although she was married to Hephaestus, Aphrodite had an affair with Ares, the god of war. When Hephaestus discovered the betrayal, he devised a trap. While Aphrodite and Ares were lying together, he caught them in an unbreakable chain net and brought them to Mount Olympus to expose them before the other gods. The gods mocked the pair, and it was only through the intervention of Poseidon that they were finally set free. Ares. Ares is the god of war and courage. He represents the physical valor needed for success in battle, but he can also symbolize raw brutality and bloodlust. In contrast to his sister, the armored Athena, whose martial roles include military strategy and leadership, Ares plays a relatively limited role in Greek mythology. However, his many love affairs and numerous offspring are often mentioned. Apollo. Apollo is the god of archery, music and dance, truth and prophecy, healing and disease, the sun and light, poetry, and more. He was born from the union of Zeus and Leto. Hera, Zeus's wife, attempted to prevent Leto from giving birth to this illegitimate child, but she did not succeed. He is regarded as one of the most beautiful gods. He is the patron deity of Delos and the prophetic god of the famous Delphic oracle. His oracles were frequently consulted for advice on many matters. He was generally seen as a god who grants help and protects against evil. Medicine and healing are closely linked to Apollo. He could free people from epidemics, yet he was also capable of sending deadly plagues with his arrows. He was an important pastoral deity as well, and served as the protector of herdsmen and shepherds. Artemis. Artemis is the goddess of the hunt, the wilderness, wild animals, nature, vegetation, childbirth, the care of children, and chastity. She is the twin sister of Apollo and one of the three principal virgin goddesses alongside Athena and Hestia. She fiercely protected her purity, and when a young hunter saw her bathing unclothed, she angrily transformed him into a stag. He was then torn apart by his own hunting dogs, who failed to recognize their master. Artemis was among the most widely worshipped deities in ancient Greece. Dionysus. Dionysus is the god of wine, celebration, and theater. He is another illegitimate son of Zeus. Many festivals were held in his honor, often marked by heavy drinking and wild celebrations. Hermes. Hermes is the messenger god and the patron of thieves, travelers, and merchants. He can move swiftly and freely between the mortal and divine realms, aided by his winged sandals. He also serves as a guide of souls to the afterlife. Hermes was another illegitimate son of Zeus and is known as the divine trickster, often playing pranks and stealing from the other gods. He carries a golden staff as a symbol of his authority and is commonly depicted wearing a winged helmet. He rescued Dionysus on several occasions. Demeter. Demeter is the goddess of the harvest and agriculture, overseeing the growth of crops. Through her brother Zeus, she became the mother of Persephone, a fertility goddess. Hades, the god of the dead, fell in love with Persephone and emerged from the earth to carry her off to the underworld. Demeter searched tirelessly for her missing daughter, until she learned that Hades had taken her. In her grief, Demeter neglected her duties as goddess of agriculture, plunging the earth into a devastating famine, where nothing would grow and mortals began to die. Zeus then ordered Hades to return Persephone to her mother in order to save the world. However, because Persephone had eaten food in the underworld, she could not remain with Demeter permanently and was forced to divide the year between her mother and Hades. This myth explains the changing seasons, as Demeter allows the earth to flourish when Persephone is with her, but the land becomes barren during the month she is gone. Hades. Hades is the god of the dead and the king of the underworld, where the spirits of the deceased reside. He was generally portrayed as stern, but not evil, and his role was to maintain balance within his realm. He strictly forbade his subjects from leaving his domain and would become enraged if anyone attempted to escape or if someone tried to steal souls from his kingdom. Hades rarely left the underworld and showed little concern for events in the world above. The only way to enter the underworld was to gain passage from the ferryman Charon, who carried souls across the river Styx in exchange for payment. For this reason, the Greeks often buried their dead with coins placed over their eyes. If a soul could not pay Charon, it was said to wander the shores of the Styx for eternity. After crossing the Styx, souls encountered Cerberus, the three-headed dog who guarded the gates of the underworld. They were then judged by 3 judges, who determined their fate. Souls could be sent to Elysium, the Asphodel Meadows, or Tartarus. Elysium was a paradise reserved for heroes, demigods, and especially virtuous mortals. The Asphodel Meadows were for ordinary people who had lived neither particularly good nor evil lives. Tartarus was a place of punishment, where the Titans and other offenders who defied the gods were condemned to eternal torment. Hestia. Hestia is the goddess of the hearth, the central fire of the home that was traditionally used for warmth and cooking, and she is associated with domestic life in general. She is one of the 3 virgin goddesses, alongside Athena and Artemis. Compared to the other Olympians, she has a very limited role in mythology. I'll be making similar videos, subscribe to see them.